All right, good morning, friends. We're here at beautiful Pirates Cove Marina. It's blowing. Hurricane Ian has just hit Florida yesterday and working its way on up the coast there. And it's going to pass probably about 200-300 miles to our west here, which we are thankful for. But we're still feeling some of the effects of the winds, and our thoughts and prayers go out to the people in Florida. But today, we're going to talk about what is the best electronics package for your boat that you intend to take offshore fishing. And I'm going to give you my opinion on it, and I'm going to tell you my do's and my likes and my dislikes, and we're going to go from there, so stay tuned. So when we bought this boat last year, it had one 16-inch screen, was an 8616 is what Garmin, the model number is. And then we had a 942. And the 8616 was centered in the dash. And the 9 was right there to the side of it. So I didn't like it a whole lot. I'd always been a Simrad man. I just put a new Simrad package on my center console boat that I had, and I fell in love with it. So I was kind of biased towards Garmin, and I guess because I had learned how to use the Simrad and it's worked for me so well. But since we've had this boat, I've come to grow and like the Garmin system, just because I've gotten more familiar with it and learned how it works. But what we did, we knew the single 16 was not going to be sufficient for what we were doing. So we added another 16. And we also added side scan transducers. So that meant that we had holes in the dash that did not line up with what we needed to put in here. So when we added the side scan transducers, we needed a sounder module. And this 8616 did not have a built-in sounder module. So we could go one of two ways. We had to get an independent sounder module, or we could buy a 8616 XSB, which had the sounder module built in. So that's what we did. So in order to make the whole dash work, I built this, I guess you would call it a cover or a dash panel. And I made that out of cast acrylic is what that material is called. So that way we covered up all the holes that were, the existing holes that were in the fiberglass, and we were able, to lay it out the way we wanted to. The boat came with 2 Icom VHS, which was good, and I just reinstalled them with stereo. And the autopilot unit was up on the dash. So I moved that down here on the flat part of the dash. The trim tab controller was already there. But that presented another, now I'm always thinking, you know what I mean? Because there's really no place to store things up here. So what I did was, I added a glove box. A place where you could keep your log books, your keys, your cell phone cords, anything you wanted to keep in there. A pair of binoculars. And that was pretty challenging because they had to make it waterproof also. But no, it turned out well. And so we have a 942, a 9-inch screen up on the tower too. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over how I normally use these screens when we're fishing or we're running or anything like that. So in the mornings when I leave, Oregon Inlet is one of the most dangerous inlets in the world, and we have a 9-mile trip to get from the marina to the inlet. And it's not fun to do that. Every morning when you're out there, making that 9-mile run in the dark, it's very nerve-wracking. So electronics play a big part of that, because there could be a boat, in front of you or something like that. You're not able to use your bar light or your spotlight and actually see. So you have to rely on your electronics a lot. And so what I normally do is I keep both of the 16s on the chart, option. And I'll keep this one zoomed in to 50 feet. And that keeps, it's zoomed in, keeps you right on your track. You're able to follow your old tracks and stay right in the channel. But this one I'll keep on like 120-foot zoom. So that's, zoomed further out, and I can see a greater picture of what I'm going to need to be doing in the future. Like if a turn is coming up around a channel marker, and I know I can see, I've got it on, I also keep it on overlay on that 120 feet, and I can see that channel marker, and I can tell that it's coming up, and I'll need to make a turn around that. And so that's just the way I run these two when I'm going out in the morning. Of course, I'll keep that 9 on traditional sonar, so that way I can always tell, you know, what the depth is underneath of the boat, because that's, you know, that gets pretty hairy here, you know, at Oregon Inlet, because there's some times where you only have 2 feet or so underneath of the boat in some of these places you run, and that's, you know, that's pretty scary. So you always want to keep an eye on that. Now, once we get out of the inlet and we're running offshore, I'll go ahead and I'll go to a combo on this one. And the combo I like is the side scan and the traditional. So here I can see any fish that might not be directly underneath the boat. And I normally keep that on, you know, 3 to, you know, 500 feet, depending on the conditions, because the calmer it is, the better, you know, the better that this works. And the further out that it's more accurate. But, you know, I can see a school of tunas or something, they can be, you know, 400 feet off the quarter starboard side, and you're not dragging the baits over top of them, and you know, you won't get a bite. And here with that machine, you can see them off to the side of the boat and make a loop, you know, and try to put the baits right in their face. And so that's my traditional setup that I normally use. And of course, once we get out to the fishing grounds, you know, I'll zoom this on out, you know, probably to, you know, a mile, and that way it's not so zoomed in, you know, that way I can keep track of where I've been, and it always has my TD position on it there, so if we get a bite there, I know where it is. And but that pretty much describes the dash down here. My good friend Charlie Billicum with Marine Installations there in Reeville, he ordered a screen for us, and I cut the dash panel out, he polished the edges for me, and I installed this, and then he helped me put everything in the dash. But no, it turned out good. It really made, you know, this dash cluster look, you know, amazing. And but it was a lot of work. I probably had, I don't know, a good 30 man hours in doing it. But you know, it's a boat. It takes you know, a fair amount of time to do anything, because you know, you really need to pay attention to the detail. So another item that we have here is trim tabs. They're called zip weight trim tabs, and they're not your traditional trim tabs that, you know, you normally have. They're actually, short of lack of better terms, it's a bar that comes down out of a bracket on the stern of the boat, and it's pretty neat. It has an auto pitch and level mode on it, so you can put it on that mode, and you know, if you get a lot of weight on one side of the boat, it automatically compensates. And all it is a fin that comes down and creates, you know, hydro pressure, I guess you would call it, and it levels the boat, and it's working the whole time by itself. It's a pretty neat system, and they don't stick up off the back of the boat very far, so you don't have to worry about snagging a line on them or anything else like that. But other than that, you know, I really have learned to grow to like the Garmin system. And up top in the tower, we have a single 942. We're gonna go up there in a minute and tell you some things that we're gonna change on that, and the reason we're gonna change it. But other than that, we have the dash here just about like I like it, how I envisioned it would be. Now we're up in the tower, and this is where I prefer to do most of my fishing during the day if the weather permits. Now, on a super rough day when the boat's pitching and rocking, it's kind of hard to be up here because, I mean, you're 22 feet off the water here at your feet, and it, you know, every pitch and roll that the boat makes, it's intensified here. You know, it's elevated above the boat, so it's kind of, some days it's kind of hard to deal with. You know, you really feel like you take a beating up here, but there are some beautiful calm days where I wouldn't take $1 million to come down over this tower just because of the view you can see. It's amazing. the things that you can get your eyes on when you're elevated like this, and just some of the things that the average person at sea level down in the cockpit cannot see, but you can see up here. It's amazing, and I love it. What we're going to talk about now is the electronics panel up here. We have a single 9-inch Garmin, and the problem with this is it's a great unit, but when the sun is shining, you have to get right over top of it and look straight down at it in order to be able to see it clearly. Now, I'm here and I'm driving, and I'm a little bit further back, so every time I want to look at the fish finder or the chart, I have to get over top of it and look straight down, which is not good because I'm taking my eyes off of my surroundings. And you know, there's a lot of times where you'll see a fish break because you're not watching. You know, there's several occasions where I've been looking at the electronics. Sometimes, did you see that in front of the boat? You know, I'm just looking at the electronics because I have to get right straight over it and look down. So that's what I dislike about this setup here, but hopefully we're going to change that this winter. So we're going to add 2 9s, and we're going to angle them a little bit towards the helm pod here. And so that way, I think it'll be a lot better flow. We have an autopilot controller up here. We also have a command mic icon being works great. You know, it's only one radio. A lot of times you need to be monitoring 3 or 4 different channels, you know. But I keep this one on scan up here, and it gets a little confusing sometimes because somebody will say something and you're not exactly looking at it. You don't know what channel it was before it starts scanning again. So, but you can still communicate, and it's good. But it's just, I love this tower. It's a great being up here. You can see the fish when they come. You can see all the baits there in the spring. And, but that's what I know about the electronics here on the Speechless, and what we'd like to change, what it was like when we bought the boat. And until next time, as Marcus says, stay salty.